They say the stars decide your fate the moment you are born. Then why did mine have to end with death? Not just any death. Execution. By the hands of my own father, the emperor. I didn't believe in fate. Not until I picked up that book. It was just another cheap romance story. The kind you would read on a rainy afternoon and forget by morning. But as soon as I slept taking my sleeping meds, I woke up as the same princess but in baby form. A magical empire. A cold-hearted emperor. And a doomed, unwanted daughter named Athanasia. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed. This can't be real. This is the palace from the book. And I am her. The doomed princess. So tell me, how do you survive a story that's already been written? How do you escape a fate where the ending is your own death? You would think being born a princess would be a blessing, right? Well, not if your father is a clinically unstable tyrant with blood on his hands. You see this palace I live in? Ruby Palace? Sounds fancy, and it is, if you ignore the part where it used to house the emperor's entire harem. Until the day I was born. That is the day when my father, the great Emperor Claude, went full maniac mode and wiped out everyone here. Concubines, maids, guards, everyone. Talk about an intense birth announcement. My mother was a dancer. Graceful, mysterious, probably too good for this world. She caught the emperor's eye during a banquet, and well, I am sure you can guess what happened next. He used her, forgot her, and left her to die, leaving me behind, an infant with no name, no protection, and no father who gives a damn. So I was raised by the maids who were unlucky enough to be reassigned to this death trap of a palace. Maid 1 says, she is still not asleep. Maid 2 goes, do we really have to be here right now? Maid 3 smirking respond, think of this as a break. She cannot even crawl. Athanasia thinking, please don't take it out on me, ladies. We are all stuck here together in this cursed mansion. The emperors never once come to see me, so I guess they all think I am some disposable reject. I have one goal in life, stay unnoticed. Stay far away from that psycho emperor for as long as humanly possible. A maid says His Majesty doesn't even think of her, but look at these luxuries. What a life. Athanasia thinking, now smug, I mean, she is not wrong. Sure, I am technically abandoned, but this is still the life of a princess. Cozy bed? Check. 3 meals a day? You bet. Golden baby rattle? Probably worth more than my old apartment. No matter how bad I have got it. I have got a plan. Grow up. Get strong. Steal some royal bling. And run far away. But first, let's work on getting out of this damn crib. Maid 1 whispered, did you hear that ghost in the kitchen again? Maid 2 asked, why were we the ones sent here? I hate this place. Maid 3 in a dejected tone says, who knows when we will end up like them too. Athanasia thinking, trying to stay calm, cool, so now the palace is haunted, apparently. First the mass murder, now ghosts. What a lovely place for a baby to grow up. After few months, I started crawling like a pro. Which meant I could now reach all those shiny things lying around. I mean, it is the emperor's castle. These aren't your average costume jewelry trinkets. They are real gold, real gems. My escape fund, basically. Lily, a soft-spoken maid, holds up golds and jewels to distract Athanasia. She giggles. Lily is the nicest out of them all. She thinks I love sparkly things. I mean, she's not wrong. Athanasia listens intently as Lily reads from a fairy tale book with magical illustrations. That is how I found out. This world isn't just royal scandals and assassinations. It is magic too. Fairies, mana, curses, spells, and then, there he was. An illustration of the emperor. Cold, beautiful, terrifying. Athanasia is furious. That face. That name. Claude. My father. My future executioner. As the story of my current life is same as that of Athanasia of that popular novel. Let's see how the story unfolds in that novel. It is a best-selling romance fantasy novel, full of sparkles, magic, and heartbreak. And guess what? The main character isn't me. It is a girl named Jeanette, the empire's second princess, among the 2 princesses, while Athanasia is just the side character. Jeanette is a beautiful lady with an angelic heart. She is loved not just by her nation but the entire continent. And among those who adore Jeanette, was her father, Emperor Claude. To the people, Claude is praised as a hero, a savior of the nation. But in truth, he is a heartless man who killed his elder brother, the proper heir, and sat himself upon the throne. Jeanette was the kind of person who could melt even a cold-blooded man like him. Claude only learned of Jeanette's existence when she turned 14. Jeanette's mother was Claude's fiancée. After angering him and losing her place as his bride-to-be, she died giving birth. Jeanette's aunt hid her away in the Alpheus family, hoping to protect her from Claude. He was cold to her at first, but since Jeanette is the protagonist, she eventually melted his icy heart. With her father's support, she marries Prince Alpheus, the best man in the empire, and lives happily ever after. On the other hand, what about the treatment of the first princess? Athanasia was born first, same age as Jeanette, but Claude left her to grow up in the Ruby Palace with concubines. He knew about her from the moment she was born. Thanks to that, she grows up to be a fragile princess, always on edge. The first time she ever sees her father is on her 9th birthday. Drawn by the banquet lights and noise, Athanasia wanders into the emperor's garden late that night, where she meets Claude for the first time. Of course, he just turns away and walks off. But for a girl who had never known affection, that moment felt fatefully important. So she tries, with all her might, to be loved by her father. She grows into a beautiful young lady, full of skill and grace. But on the day of her debutante, when she turns 14, her dream shatters. Jeanette appears, bright and cheery as the sun. And Athanasia, with her gloomy, foggy disposition. It was inevitable. Everyone loved Jeanette more. Athanasia was a good person too, but Jeanette was meant to be the best girl in the story. Instead of being jealous, Athanasia actually teaches Jeanette how to survive palace life. Honestly, she should have looked out for herself, because in the end, she loses even the thing she wanted most, her father's love. Not that she ever really had it. Then comes the final blow. Jeanette collapses at a banquet. Athanasia is arrested, accused of poisoning her. She is framed. Jeanette's aunt planned everything, a scheme to eliminate Athanasia and make Jeanette the heir. Though it didn't matter. Claude never saw Athanasia as a successor anyway. And here is the thing, if Athanasia had known the drink was poisoned, she would have gladly drunk it herself. Because if anything had happened to Jeanette, it would have devastated Claude. That's the kind of person Athanasia was. A poor, foolish princess. Maybe the aunt only meant to frame her, imprison her or exile her. But Claude didn't wait for a trial, didn't even wait for proof. He executed her himself on her 18th birthday, exactly 9 years after she first met him in the garden. Eventually, the truth came out. But Claude never felt guilt, not a shred of regret for killing his own daughter. Jeanette was heartbroken for a while, until her fiancé comforted her. And then the story moved on, happily ever after. It pisses me off just thinking about it. It's not like I really liked Athanasia or anything. But still, she was better than Claude and Jeanette. I just don't get why she had to die like that. Such a meaningless death, just to highlight how much Claude loved Jeanette. I could care less what happens to anyone else in this world as long as I am happy. But this, I can't just stand by and watch. Because, it seems I have become that very Athanasia. Athanasia cried. Not because she was hurt. Not because she had fallen or been scolded. She cried because she remembered. She remembered the novel. That story, drenched in romance, betrayal, and blood, wasn't fiction anymore. It was her life now. And the worst part? She wasn't the heroine. She was the girl destined to die. Little Athanasia buried her face in her small hands, trembling with the weight of that cruel fate. That's when Lillian found her, rushing to her side, embracing her as if her warmth could erase the fear. Lillian, the only person in that entire book who had believed in Athanasia's innocence. And for that belief, she had been killed by the emperor himself. Even knowing the horrors of the Ruby Palace, even after what Claude had done, Lillian had volunteered to be Athanasia's nanny. Because of Diana, the late empress, Athanasia's mother. Lillian had admired Diana's free spirit, how she danced through the palace like a bird unbound by fear or duty. But Diana died giving birth, and Claude retaliated with madness. He massacred every soul in the Ruby Palace. Now, that very same palace housed the child of the woman he once loved. And Lillian, fully aware of what had happened there, chose to stay. When Athanasia realized all this, the fate written for her, the fate awaiting Lillian, she cried harder. I don't want to be Athanasia, she sobbed. I don't want her to die because of me. She clung to Lillian like a lifeline, like a girl trapped inside a nightmare with no way out. Time passed. 5 years, to be exact. Athanasia grew into a clever child, poised, careful, always watching. Unlike in the novel, she wasn't cold or haughty with the palace staff. She did everything she could to win them over, with kindness, smiles, and humility. Because she knew, they were her only allies. She couldn't afford to make enemies in a place like this. But even that wasn't enough. While other palaces housed noble blood, the Ruby Palace was staffed by those with no title, people who looked out for themselves and nothing more. One by one, the the signs became clear. Budget cuts, missing supplies, jewels and ornaments quietly vanishing from the walls. The staff had grown bold. Why wouldn't they? Claude had no time for Athanasia. No one feared retaliation. She was just a scarecrow, a hollow figure left to rot in the sun. It broke her. The things they were stealing weren't just pretty decorations. They were her future, the only wealth she could ever claim and run from this place. For a moment, she even considered telling Claude. Even if he never visited, even if he barely remembered she existed, she had nothing. And now, they were taking even her future away. The Ruby Palace was famous for its views, rolling gardens, silver fountains, flowers that bloomed in impossible colors. But no one ever said it was a good place to raise a child. One afternoon, Athanasia wandered into the garden. She stopped at a fountain, its still water glistening under the sun. And for the first time, she saw herself. A girl with delicate features, long lashes, soft golden hair. "So this is what I look like," she whispered. "I am the spitting image of my mother." But her eyes were similar to Claude's. Eyes like gems, cold and brilliant, possessed only by the imperial bloodline. Magic flowed in everyone in this world. But the royal family's magic was different. Rare, powerful, ancient. And her eyes proved it. She was his daughter, whether he acknowledged her or not. She looked into the water, unsure what to feel: pride, resentment, sadness. And when she looked up again, she realized she was standing alone, in the middle of a flower-filled garden, surrounded by silence. And yet, her mind was louder than ever. Athanasia glanced left, then right. Great. She was lost again. She had wandered too far from the Ruby Palace, again, and now everything looked unfamiliar. But then she saw it. A fort in the distance. Majestic, silent, and far too clean to be abandoned. Maybe that's the Ruby Palace, she thought. She rushed toward it, hope lighting up her small face. But it wasn't. It was something else entirely. A palace, unused but pristine, its corridors echoing with quiet dignity. It didn't feel haunted, just forgotten. Athanasia crept inside, peeking past pillars, tiptoeing across marbled floors. No guards, no servants, no curious eyes. "If no one's using it," she whispered, "then I suppose I could." This would be her secret place, her emergency stash spot, the perfect hideout to prepare for a future escape. Back in the Ruby Palace, Athanasia sat at her desk, drawing idly. Learning the language here had come surprisingly easy. But one careless mistake, writing a little too well, had exposed her. This world didn't teach reading and writing early. She was trying to stay low-key, stay invisible. But her little slip-up had sparked attention, and with it, her unwanted early education began. Thankfully, the Ruby Palace was isolated. No gossip could leak out that easily. She made herself a promise. On her 9th birthday, when nobles gather in the Emperor's garden, she wouldn't be there. She would be somewhere else. Anywhere but near Claude. And before she turned 18, she would be gone. Vanished with the goods. Athanasia crawled near her bed and pulled out a worn cloth bag. Inside, the tiny jewels and trinkets she had been hiding over the years. "These pretties," she thought, "were meant to be hidden in my room, but it's too risky now. Any curious maid could stumble upon her stash during cleaning." So, she tied the little pouches tightly to her legs, beneath her skirt, concealed, protected, ready. That night, after the maid tucked her in and left, she slipped out of bed, crept through the palace halls, and darted toward her secret place. But this time, she didn't go inside the building. Instead, she chose a tree nearby, a quiet spot. Safe, private. She knelt, but no shovel. And her hands? Too small, too soft. "Lillian would catch me immediately if I show up with dirt under my nails," she muttered. She sighed. "No choice. I will come back tomorrow with something." Running back to the palace, she had a brilliant, or perhaps reckless, idea. I could ask a maid for a toy shovel. Over the next few weeks, Athanasia kept sneaking out. One visit every few days. Careful, precise. The secret building had become her sanctuary, her world. A place where she wasn't a forgotten princess or a ticking time bomb's daughter. One day, instead of going to her usual hiding spot, she wandered to a different wing. There, her eyes widened. Rows of golden angel statues lined the walls, glowing under filtered sunlight. "There are so many, if I take just one, no one will even notice." She reached toward one statue, fingers trembling with mischief. She held it, and then a voice, cold, sharp, like a dagger on ice. "What is this filthy bug doing in my palace?" She froze, her breath caught, and she slowly turned to face him. Two men stood before her. One had blonde hair, exposing his bare chest like he didn't care who stared. The other had red hair, too serious, too polished. He looked like the assistant, or the leash holding back a wild beast. Both men stared at Athanasia like she didn't belong there. And then, she looked up. Her eyes met his. And her world collapsed. Panic overtook her. Her legs trembled. And the pouch, the one tied to her thigh, slipped and hit the marble floor with a dull thud. The jewels rolled out like glittering secrets she couldn't hide anymore. The two men looked down, then back up at her. The blonde man squinted, narrowing his gaze. That face, he muttered. I have seen it before. Athanasia's breath caught. His hair, his eyes, his aura. Those same jewel-toned eyes, identical to hers. She had never seen him before in the flesh, but now there was no doubt. Claude de Alger-Obelia. Her father. The emperor. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. And then he said, you look like that wench, that dancer from Sayadana. Her blood turned cold. In her mind, she screamed, what's this guy doing here? I am only 5. It is not even my 9th birthday yet. This isn't supposed to happen now. He placed a single finger under her chin, lifting her face with that unnerving, predator's smile. I think I remember what that wench named you, Athanasia. Right? She froze, eyes wide, heart pounding. This was the face of the man who massacred the entire Ruby Palace. Her mother, Diana, had named her. A name meaning eternity, a name only the emperor could give to an heir. And because of that, he had spared her, not out of love, but out of amusement. He said casually, back then, you were a tiny thing. Couldn't even lift your head. She didn't reply. She couldn't. The man who gave her life had also almost taken it. And now, he was kneeling in front of her, like a snake measuring its prey. You have grown a lot. Her whole body began to shake. And then a second pouch tumbled from under her skirt. This time, the jewels spilled in plain view. Her carefully hoarded stash, exposed. Claude glanced at the small gems coldly, then stepped on one, crushed it. The silence was unbearable. He walked forward, lifted her up by the waist like she weighed nothing. And then, he stared right into her eyes. You are heavy, he said flatly. You have got chubby cheeks, but didn't think you would be this heavy. That was it. Something in her snapped internally. Chubby? Heavy? After all this time, he says that? The man who ignored her for 5 years. The one who murdered everyone around her. And now he was casually commenting on her weight? In her head, she screamed, why are you talking to me now? You are a cold-hearted bastard. A dirtbag who only loves Jeanette. You have never considered me your daughter. Out loud, she stayed quiet. What were you doing in my palace? He asked, eyes narrowing. That's when the final realization hit her. This wasn't just a palace. This was his palace. And she had trespassed. Sweat dripped from Athanasia's temples. Claude stared down at her. Cold, calm, dangerous. But before the silence could grow any heavier, the red-haired man, Felix, stepped forward. Your Majesty. Perhaps she thought it was a toy. A lifeline. A small defense. But Athanasia was spiraling inside. Is he going to kill me? Am I dead for trespassing? Or, oh gods, will I die because I left bite marks on his angel statue? But Claude simply tilted his head and smirked. She must have wandered off during her playtime. And just like that, he tossed her toward Felix. Carry her. I think I will have some tea with her. Inside the palace, Athanasia sat on a velvet sofa that swallowed her small frame, facing a table overflowing with cakes and treats that looked like something from a fairy tale. And across from her, like a dragon lounging in his lair, sat Claude, watching her with eyes sharp enough to cut steel. She couldn't meet his gaze. She was trembling. Didn't know you couldn't speak, Claude muttered, almost disappointed. How boring. Her heart stopped. Does he mean, because I am not entertaining, he will kill me? She forced herself to smile. Not much of a talker, but I can talk. It was barely a whisper. A scared child's attempt at survival. Claude's lips curled slightly. Finally, I get to hear your voice. Why were you silent until now? Felix stepped in again. Pardon me, Majesty, but little girls her age are known to be very shy. Inside her mind, Athanasia raged, you jerk. Even a grown woman would freeze in front of you. I am 5. But on the outside, she smiled sweetly, her cutest face yet, while silently begging to be released. It felt like a dragon was staring at a terrified little bunny, waiting to decide whether to play with it or burn it alive. And then, Claude waved Felix away. Now they were alone. Do you know the meaning of your name? He asked flatly. She said nothing. So he continued, Athanasia. Immortality. That woman dared to name her daughter something even I wasn't allowed. His voice was calm, but every word stabbed like a dagger. Had she survived the labor, she would have her limbs ripped off for her audacity. Athanasia's breath hitched. Inside, her thoughts raced. Names like mine are reserved for imperial heirs, the first heir to the throne. Even Claude, who seized power by killing his own brother, was never given a name like that. So he must resent me, maybe, even hate me for it. He might kill me just for existing. Her mind pleaded, I don't care about the throne. I just want to live a peaceful, quiet life and die in my sleep. I may have a fancy name, but I am just a scared 5-year-old with a sweet tooth. Why are you just sitting there? Claude asked. Eat. Her hands trembled. I ordered them to prepare food a child would like, he added, voice sharper now. If you don't eat, I will have no choice but to punish the cook. Her eyes widened in terror. She forced a smile. Thank you for the food. She took a bite of cake. And instantly, her heart melted just a little. This is actually yummy. But even as the sweetness filled her mouth, Claude never looked away. He watched her eat, like a cat watching a cornered mouse. She felt suffocated by his gaze. Who taught you your manners? He asked. Lily, she stuttered. Claude raised an eyebrow. Lillian York, you mean? Her eyes widened. He knows her full name? 5 years ago, she stepped in front of me and requested permission to care for you. Athanasia blinked. Lily did that? For me? She even took charge of the Ruby Palace. Athanasia's heart swelled. She had never known. But then, how dare she? Claude muttered coldly. The only 2 people who survived getting in my way were your mother, and that wench. Back to fear. She continued eating, drenched in sweat, avoiding his eyes. And then came the final question. Do you know who I am? The fork fell from her trembling fingers. She looked up. Their eyes met. She didn't blink. She didn't breathe. Her thoughts were screaming. Don't look away. Don't flinch. This isn't a tea party. This is a test. He's deciding, right now, whether to let me live or kill me.